Seeing his ex-wife in an elite restaurant, Vadim smirked and prepared to mock her in front of his mistress. He was sure Anna was barely scraping by. But the moment the waiter addressed her with respect, his arrogant smile slowly faded from his face. Anna Vetrova stood at the bus stop, clutching a worn suitcase. Her whole world, clothes carefully folded, several thousand rubles in her wallet, and a big dream. She had always known her future was in the kitchen. In childhood, she could sit for hours next to her mother at the stove, watching her cook. Anna knew one day she would have her own restaurant, where she would create something special. But for now, a gray, infinitely large city stretched out before her. No one was waiting for her here, and she had to rely only on herself. At first, it was hard. Without experience, no one would hire her, and housing required money. Fortunately, she managed to find a small room in an old communal apartment. The main thing is that I have a roof over my head. The rest will work itself out, Anna reassured herself, looking at the peeling walls and the dim light bulb on the ceiling. She quickly found work, a waitress in a small cafe by the subway. The team was motley: an eternally dissatisfied administrator, a tired cook, 2 assistant cooks, and waitresses just like her. She worked 12 hours on her feet, but the pay was low. The customers didn't leave much in tips either. Sometimes, especially in the evenings, when her legs buzzed with fatigue and her stomach rumbled with hunger, Anna wondered if she had done the right thing by leaving her hometown. But every morning, before her shift, she opened her laptop and watched cooking courses. Sometimes she wrote down recipes, dreaming that one day she would create her own signature dish. "Are you on those culinary videos again?" Svetlana, her friend and neighbor, burst into the room. "Yes, how much longer?" Svetlana Voronina was Anna's complete opposite, loud, full of life, always with a ready retort. They had met in the first days after Svetlana's arrival. "But this is my dream," Anna smiled wearily. "A dream is a dream, but you want to eat now, not later." Maybe it would be better to look for a better job. Anna remained silent. She knew her friend was right, but she had no choice. Her goal was to get into culinary college, and for that, she needed money. In the evening, lying on the creaking bed, she closed her eyes and imagined how one day she would open the door of her own restaurant, smell fresh bread and spices, and hear the quiet hum of satisfied customers' voices. "Everything will work out," she whispered in the dark. "I will succeed." The workday at the cafe was in full swing. Anna balanced the tray with skill, distributing orders, barely managing to react to the customers' shouts. It was noisy, business as usual for an evening. The aroma of freshly ground coffee and warm pastries floated in the air. She already wanted to run to the kitchen to take the next order when Svetlana nudged her discreetly in the ribs. "Look to the right. That customer clearly didn't come for coffee." Anna turned and saw a man who certainly stood out. He was sitting at a table near the window, carelessly flipping through the menu. He wore an expensive suit. A thin gold watch gleamed on his wrist, and his gaze was sharp and attentive. Anna approached. "Good evening. Are you ready to order?" The man slowly raised his head and looked at her. His eyes slid over her face, and the corners of his lips lifted slightly. "Good evening. Do they make good coffee here?" "They do, but I personally prefer tea." "Really?" he smiled. "Then I will take tea. Do you recommend any dessert?" Anna hesitated for a second. Usually she didn't stay at tables longer than necessary, but in this case she wanted to continue the conversation. "Then I will take that one. And one more thing," he leaned forward slightly. "What is your name?" "Anna," she answered unexpectedly for herself. "Beautiful name, and I am Vadim." She nodded and hurried to the kitchen, but returning to the bar she caught herself looking in his direction again. The next day Vadim came to the cafe again, then one more time, and then he started coming daily. He waited for her after her shift, left generous tips, looked long into her eyes, told her about business, travels, expensive restaurants. "Anne, do you even understand who he is?" Svetlana crossed her arms over her chest when they sat in the kitchen in the evening. "Who? An ordinary man doesn't behave like that." This isn't the kind of guy who invites you to a movie around the corner. He's from another world. You're exaggerating. Me? Look at him. He's rich, successful, and suddenly, I don't know why, he's interested in a simple waitress? Do you think it's just like that? Anna just shrugged, but inside her something fluttered. The next evening, Vadim waited for her after work. I have something for you. He handed her a small box. Anna unwrapped it and exclaimed. It was a delicate silver bracelet with a small heart-shaped pendant. Vadim, it's too much. It's just a token of attention, Anna. I like to make you happy. She was shy but accepted the gift, and Svetlana just shook her head. It's too beautiful to be true. Be careful. Anna herself didn't notice how she fell in love with Vadim. He was attentive, caring. His confidence charmed her. It was as if the doors of 100 elite clubs opened before him. Gifts without reason. He always knew what to say. He knew how to surprise. And most importantly, he saw in her not just a waitress, but a woman who deserved the best. Only 2 months had passed since their first meeting, when one evening he invited her to a restaurant. It was a place not for ordinary visitors. Diffused light, snow-white tablecloths, waiters in impeccable suits. She still hadn't gotten used to such places, although Vadim assured her that now she was part of this world. When they brought dessert, he suddenly took out a small box and, without taking his eyes off her, opened it. Inside was a ring, thin, with a diamond sparkling in the candlelight. "Marry me," he said simply. Anna froze. She knew he had serious intentions, but she didn't expect it all to happen so fast. "Vadim," she looked at him, lost. "I want to be with you. I need you. Let's not waste time." She felt a lump in her throat. Never before had anyone said such words to her. In that moment, she felt special, important. She nodded affirmatively, unable to utter a word. When she broke the news to her parents, they were shocked. "Little girl," her mother shook her head. "Are you sure? 2 months is too little. We love each other, Mom. Love is tested by time. Doesn't it seem to you that he is rushing?" Her father was silent, but from his look, it was clear he was no less skeptical. "Did he even tell you about himself? What business he has, who his family is?" Anna sighed. "He deals with investments. His family lives in another city." "Dad, I've already made the decision." The parents looked at each other but didn't argue anymore. They understood that their daughter couldn't hear them anymore. Svetlana also reacted harshly. "Anne, have you gone crazy? 2 months? Do you even know him?" "I know him. He is kind, caring." "Yeah? And why is he rushing like that?" "Svetlana, I'm not 20 years old to build relationships for years. You should have a head on your shoulders. Something is wrong here." Anna flared up. "You're just envious." "Envious?" Svetlana laughed. "Anne, wake up. I'm just warning you." But she didn't want to listen. The wedding was modest. The civil ceremony, a dinner at a restaurant. Vadim said he didn't like pompous festivities, and she agreed. Immediately after the wedding, he brought her to the new apartment. Huge, with panoramic windows and a view of the city. "Now this is your home," he said, hugging her by the waist. Anna looked around, unable to believe her happiness. Everything happened so fast, like in a fairy tale. Only then she didn't yet know that fairy tales sometimes end too soon. After the wedding, everything changed. Vadim was no longer that caring and attentive man she had fallen in love with. Now he came home late, practically didn't interest himself in her affairs, and any attempt at conversation ended irritably. "I'm busy now. Let's do it later," or simply with silence. Anna tried to explain this by fatigue, by getting used to family life, but inside, something told her, something strange is happening. But the worst thing was that she suddenly found herself completely dependent. Her bank card was blocked. Vadim said he would open a new one for her, more convenient. Only it turned out to be convenient for him. He transferred money there, and he controlled the expenses. But it's uncomfortable for me to ask you every time if I can buy something. Anne, you are my wife. Why worry your head about money? I will handle everything. It's simpler this way. She felt that something was wrong, but she didn't protest anymore. But the most unpleasant thing began a few weeks later. "This is Xenia," Vadim said carelessly. "She's my cousin. She will live with us temporarily until she finds an apartment." Anna didn't know what to say. The strange thing was that Xenia behaved from the start as if she were the mistress there. She used Anna's expensive cosmetics, left her clothes in the living room, gave orders to the housekeeper, and barely communicated with Anna. She only threw ironic comments. "You got lucky," Xenia told her once, looking at her with a smirk. Vadim always knew how to choose what he needs. These words stuck in her mind, but Anna didn't understand what lay behind them. Then Vadim started the discussion about the loan. "We need to expand," he said at dinner. "I have a good business idea, but I need additional investments. You said you were doing well with money." "Of course, but these are investments. Moreover, you have a good credit history. We'll do it in your name. It's simpler. It's for both of us." Anna fell into thought. On the one hand, he was her husband, and they were a family. But on the other hand, she had never dealt with finances, let alone taking loans. "I need to think." "What is there to think about?" Irritation appeared in Vadim's voice. "I'm not a stranger. This is business, Anna, not kindergarten." She lowered her eyes. Vadim had never spoken to her in such a tone. "Okay," she whispered. "I will think about it." Anna woke up early. Vadim wasn't home. He had left on business the previous evening and hadn't returned. Xenia had left too, so it was unusually quiet in the apartment. She went into the kitchen, made herself tea, and sat at the table. Thoughts about the loan gave her no peace. She didn't like the idea, but Vadim pressed harder and harder. He had been irritated when she said she wanted to think. Why does he have to take the credit in my name if he has money? This question wouldn't leave her mind. She was thoughtfully stirring her tea when she heard the lock click in the hallway. Vadim had returned. She wanted to leave the kitchen, but stopped upon hearing his voice. "Yes, Xenia, everything is normal." Anna frozen. Vadim was talking on the phone and, judging by his voice, didn't know she was home. The bank has already given preliminary approval. It remains to convince her to sign the papers. Anna tensed up. "Of course, it doesn't even cross her mind that something is wrong," he laughed. "You should have seen how she looks at me, like a puppy." Anna turned to ice. "I told you, Xenia, don't worry. As soon as we take the loan, we leave. Spain awaits us, and this fool, let her deal with the debts herself." Anna clenched her fingers so hard that her nails dug into her palms. Every word rang like a dull bell in her ears. Fool, let her deal with it herself. She couldn't believe it. She was lied to. She was used. She slowly moved away from the kitchen door, trying not to make noise. Her heart beat madly. If she hadn't heard this conversation, in a few days she might have signed the documents and remained alone, without means of existence, with a huge debt. Her chest tightened with horror, but she had no time for panic. She had to leave. She went quickly to the bedroom, took out the suitcase. She didn't know how much time she had until Vadim finished the conversation, but she couldn't lose a single second. She threw everything into the suitcase at random: a few sets of clothes, documents, phone, the money she had managed to put aside. Vadim was still talking. 2 or 3 days maximum, and everything will be resolved. Anna slammed the suitcase, went out on tiptoe into the hallway. She stopped at the door for a second, closed her eyes. Just go. Just open the door and go out. She took a deep breath, pressed the handle, and stepped over the threshold. Without looking back, she went down the stairs and went out into the street. The cold air burned her face. She was left alone, but for the first time in a long time, She felt she had done the right thing. Anna stood at the door and couldn't decide to ring. Around her, the city roared. Cars passed, people rushed to her affairs, and she stood with a suitcase in her hand and felt thrown overboard from her own life. She hadn't thought about where she would go when she left Vadim. In that moment, only one thing mattered: to escape the trap he had prepared for her. Now, however, she had no home, no money, not even a clear plan for tomorrow. She took a deep breath and pressed the doorbell button. The door opened almost immediately. Svetlana stood on the threshold, wrapped in a bathrobe with a cup of tea in her hand. She looked at her friend from head to toe, moved her gaze to the suitcase, and frowned. "What are you doing here?" Anna couldn't answer immediately. A lump rose in her throat, and she just lowered her eyes. "Did he kick you out?" "No, I left on my own." It finally got through to her. Svetlana put the cup on the shelf by the door and crossed her arms. "And now what?" "Can I stay with you?" "Just for a while, until I figure out what to do." Svetlana looked at her for a long time, as if deciding whether it was worth taking her back. "I warned you," she said finally. Anna nodded. "I know." "No, you don't know. You said then that I was envious. Do you know how hurtful it was for me to hear that? I considered you like a sister, and you—" Anna felt her eyes starting to sting. "Svetlana, please." Svetlana sighed, turned, and went into the depths of the apartment, leaving the door open. Anna took this as an invitation and stepped inside. "Put the suitcase against the wall. You will sleep on the couch. Tomorrow you go look for work." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank your luck that I'm not resentful," Svetlana muttered, and went back to the kitchen. The next day, Anna woke up early. She couldn't afford to sit idle anymore. She opened her laptop, went through the ads, sent a few CVs, but everywhere they asked for experience or documents she didn't have. "What are you looking for?" Svetlana poked her head out of the kitchen. "Go to a restaurant as a waitress. At least they pay immediately there." Anna fell into thought. It wasn't the option she had dreamed of, but it offered her a chance to at least get out of the hole. She couldn't depend on her friend indefinitely. She found several restaurants looking for staff and went for interviews. The first two refused her, either insufficient experience or the schedule didn't fit. In the third one, a small and cozy restaurant with Russian cuisine, the manager listened to her carefully, nodded, and said, "Okay, tomorrow you come out for a shift." Anna barely controlled her tears of relief. Now she had at least a tiny chance to start everything from scratch. The first day of work in the restaurant was hard. Anna was used to the pace of the cafe, but here everything was faster, stricter, more demanding. Waiters ran between tables, cooks shouted orders, the administrator strictly watched every movement of the staff. Anna tried not to lag behind, but still felt awkward. She mixed up orders, twice spilled tea, one time almost collided with a colleague. But no one yelled at her, they only looked at her with compassion. Towards evening, she went into the kitchen to catch her breath. There, bent over a huge pot, stood the head chef, a man of about 50 years old, with a thick mustache and a severe gaze, Andrei Viktorovich. "Pass me the salt, please," asked one of the cooks. "Next time get it yourself, your hands won't fall off," the chief grumbled, but pushed the jar toward him. Anna watched how he cut the meat with skill, how he checked the consistency of the sauce by barely touching the spoon. It all seemed like something almost magic. "Why are you standing here?" His voice was sharp like a knife blow. Anna flinched. "Forgive me, I was just watching. This isn't a theater. You watch the customers in the hall. Here you work." She nodded and already wanted to leave, but suddenly she couldn't help herself. "Your sauce is too thick." He raised his heavy gaze to her. "What?" "The sauce," she repeated, understanding she might be doing something stupid. "It's too thick because you kept it on the fire for a long time. If you add a little broth, it will be smoother." Silence fell in the kitchen. The cooks looked at each other. Someone snorted. and Andrei Viktorovich measured her with his gaze, took the spoon, tasted the sauce, muttered something into his beard, and without saying a word, poured several spoons of broth into the pot. "Get to work," was all he said. Anna went out, feeling her ears burning. The next day, he came to her alone. "Where did you learn?" "Nowhere." "Do you know how to cook?" "Only at home." He snorted. "You will help in the kitchen after your shift. For free." Anna froze. "Is this like an internship?" "No, this is help for me, and you either learn or you get in the way." She barely hid her smile. Agreed. That is how her new path began. Now, after every workday, she stayed in the kitchen. She watched how the cooks worked, cut vegetables, helped with the dough, listened to Andrei Viktorovich when he, briefly and without much gentleness, explained how sauces are made correctly, how soup is brought to the ideal taste, how to work with meat. It was hard for her. Sometimes it seemed she would drop from her feet, but she understood one thing. This is her world, and now she didn't intend to lose it. The evening was tense, the hall full, the noise of voices, smells of spiced dishes, the rapid movement of waiters between tables. Anna, without stopping, carried trays. Andrei Viktorovich demanded discipline. "You want to learn? Learn correctly, not in passing," he liked to repeat, and Anna strove to do so. When she approached the bar again for drinks, the administrator made a discreet sign toward a table in the back. "See that man? It's Mikhail Samoylov." Anna looked at him inquiringly. "So?" "He's the owner of a restaurant chain, a successful businessman. He drops by here often, checks how the places work. It is said he looks for people with potential." Anna just shrugged and continued her work. But when she took the order to his table, she involuntarily looked at the visitor more closely. A man of about 40 years old, well-built, with slight grayness at the temples, in an expensive but not flashy suit. He was looking at the menu with a slight smile, as if he already knew what he would order, but was checking how the list of dishes was presented. "Good evening," Anna said, handing him the notebook. "Hello," he raised an attentive gaze to her. "What is truly worth trying here today?" She thought for a second. "The beef cheeks and wine sauce." "So sure? Have you tasted them personally?" "No, but I know how they are cooked." He raised his eyebrows slightly. "So you aren't just a waitress?" "No, I'm learning from the chef." Mikhail Samoylov made the order, and when the food was brought to him, he tasted it and nodded, visibly satisfied. Anna already wanted to leave, but his voice stopped her. "And what would you add here?" She froze. The question was unexpected. A little rosemary at the end of boiling, then the sauce will become deeper in taste. He looked at her again. "Does this really interest you?" "Yes, it's my dream," she answered sincerely. Mikhail thought, then said, "I have a project. I want to open a small author's cafe. Honest cuisine, home atmosphere, everything genuine. But I need a person who puts their soul into it." Anna didn't believe her ears. "Me? Why not? You are hardworking, you have taste and desire. I'm giving you a possibility, if you are ready to risk it." She swallowed hard. It was too unexpected, too bold. But inside, something told her, this is the chance that appears one time in a life. "I am ready." Mikhail smiled. "Then we meet tomorrow and discuss the details." Anna understood that from this moment, her life would change forever. Anna walked home feeling adrenaline boiling in her chest. It seemed to her that everything was unreal, that tomorrow Mikhail would change his mind or simply disappear like a mirage. But her intuition told her, he is serious. He really gave her a chance, and she didn't have the right to miss it. When she entered the apartment, Svetlana was sitting on the couch with a cup of tea, staring at the laptop screen. "What's with you?" She raised a questioning look at her friend. Anna threw her bag on the table and sat next to her, trying to calm her breathing. "Svetlana, you won't believe it. Come on, say it already. I sense something." Anna sighed, gathered her thoughts, and began to tell about Mikhail Samoylov, about his proposal, about the chance she received. Svetlana listened frowning, then leaned back on the sofa and exhaled slowly. Wow. Anna laughed nervously. And you accepted? Of course. Do you even understand what level this is? You don't even have experience in management. Anna sighed. I know, but I can't refuse. I've dreamed of this all my life. Svetlana fell silent for a few seconds, then stood up and went to the window. Then I'm with you. Anna looked up in surprise. What? But you understand that alone you won't manage, and I know how to work with people, how to handle documents. You will be in the kitchen, and I take over the whole administrative part. Anna jumped off the couch and hugged her friend. Svetlana, you can't imagine how grateful I am to you. The next day they met with Mikhail. He had already prepared the basic calculations, proposed a few places that could be rented, and discussed the concept with them. I want this to be a place where people come not just to eat, but to feel comfort. Home atmosphere, honest food, without artificial additives and complications of haute cuisine. Simply tasty, with kindness. Anna approved, taking notes in a notebook. Will you be able to create such a menu? Yes. Good, then let's start. They walked around the city, viewed spaces. Some were too small, others too expensive. And suddenly they found the one, a small space in an old neighborhood, with large windows and high ceilings. It needed repairs, but it had potential. This is it, Anna said, looking around. Mikhail agreed. Then we take it. A few days later they signed the contract and the repairs began. Anna and Svetlana chose the tiles and furniture themselves, discussed every detail. It was hard, but incredibly inspiring. They were building not just a cafe, they were building a new life. There was more work than Anna could imagine. While the builders laid the tiles and painted the walls, she and Svetlana sorted through documents for days. Opening the cafe turned out to be not just renting the space and inventing the menu. Permits had to be obtained, licenses drawn up, the business registered, product deliveries coordinated. They chose a simple but warm name, Home Corner. They wanted people to enter here not just to eat, but to feel comfort and peace. The first problems were the suppliers. Either the price increased unexpectedly, or delivery conditions changed, or the quality of goods left much to be desired. Anna got nervous, but Svetlana was calm. They think they can fool us because we are beginners, she said, squeezing the phone in her hand after another discussion. But it's nothing. I'll find normal partners. Anna concentrated completely on the kitchen. She lived with it. She developed recipes, tried combinations, changed ingredients until she obtained the ideal taste. When the restaurant was almost ready, the main question remained: who will be the head chef? Anna thought a lot and finally decided. She entered the restaurant where she had worked before and knocked on the door of Andrei Viktorovitch's office. "What do you want?" he grumbled, raising his gaze from the papers. "I want to offer you a job." He raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Have you gone crazy?" "No." "You haven't even opened and you're already calling me?" "Yes." He looked at her for a long time, then smiled crookedly. "And what kind of place?" "A cozy cafe with honest cuisine, without airs and useless frills. Your style." He snorted. "When do you open?" "In 1 week." He looked at her one more time, then stood up, took a notebook from the table and threw it into his robe pocket. "Okay, let's see what you have there." Anna barely controlled her smile. The opening day was hectic. Svetlana bustled about the hall, Anna supervised the kitchen, Andrei Viktorovitch grumbled but worked precisely. The first customers started coming toward evening, at first one by one, then in groups. Some just entered to see, some ordered tea with cakes. Anna was nervous, but with every minute she understood more and more. She was managing. Toward the end of the day they could barely stand on their feet. But when they locked the doors and sat at a table in the empty hall, Mikhail raised his glass of tea. "Well, congratulations, girls. This is just the beginning." Anna looked around. Yes, the beginning hadn't been easy, but now she knew she would never return to the life where she had to ask for her own money. Finally, she was in her place. 1 month passed since the opening, and Anna began to observe how Home Corner gradually gained popularity. At first, customers entered with caution, studied, ordered something simple: tea with pies, borscht, homemade cutlets. But then they started to return, bring friends, recommend to acquaintances. One morning, when Anna came to the kitchen, Andrei Viktorovich met her with a satisfied smirk. "Did you see what they wrote about us?" She looked at him surprised, and he handed her the phone. It was an article in a local online magazine about new places in the city. Not a bit of airs or useless details, simply tasty food, like at home. Home Corner is the place where you want to return. Anna reread it a few times, unable to believe her eyes. "Is it true?" "True, and now enough staring, it's time to work." She smiled and ran to the hall, where Svetlana was already distributing menus. "Did you see?" she burst out. "Of course, only I personally sent them the invitation," Svetlana snorted. Gradually, the cafe filled with loyal guests. Every evening, all tables were occupied. People reserved places in advance. Anna was happy, but understood that the kitchen was working at its limit. One evening, when the workday was approaching the end, Mikhail entered the cafe. He inspected the hall, looked at the occupied tables, and smiled. "You are doing great." Anna smiled. "Thank you." "We try. You try. You have already squeezed the maximum out of this place. You need to expand." Anna looked at him surprised. "Expand?" "Yes. Open a restaurant. Spacious, with good equipment." Svetlana, who had just approached them, frowned. "Mikhail, it's too fast." "Maybe. But if not now, then when? You see that the space isn't enough anymore. People want to come, but the cafe isn't made of rubber." Anna fell into thought. Mikhail was right. The hall really filled to the brim. They were already forced to refuse guests because they simply didn't manage to serve everyone. "I'll help you with finances, but the decision is yours," he added. Svetlana looked at Anya. "What do you say?" Anya ran her hand over the wooden counter, looked at the hall, heard the quiet hum of voices, the noise of dishes. "Let's try." Svetlana sighed heavily. "Okay, hold on, girls. A new headache awaits us." Anya laughed. She knew even more work awaited them ahead, but now she no longer feared difficulties. She saw their dream transforming into something bigger. And now, when people she trusted were by her side, she was ready for the next step. Preparation for the opening of the new restaurant stretched over several months. Everything turned out to be more complicated than with the cafe. Stricter requirements, more permits, more money, more responsibility. Mikhail helped with finances, but even with his support, they had to count every kopeck. After long deliberations, they found the right place, a generous space in the city center with high ceilings and huge windows, a former restaurant that had closed long ago. Capital repairs were needed here, but Anna felt immediately, this is it. Svetlana grumbled that they would have to consume a heap of nerves again, but supported her. Anna slowly opened her eyes. "What time is it?" "Almost 6 in the morning. Did I fall asleep?" "Yes, and right with the calculations in your hand." Anna smiled faintly and reached for the coffee. "Will we manage?" Svetlana shrugged. "You always knew it wouldn't be easy." "Yes, but sometimes it seems to me I took too much upon myself." "Maybe, but there is no way back." Anna took a deep breath, looked at the hall plan, and nodded. "Then let's finish. We have a restaurant to open." They named it Gastrodom, not too pompous, but hinting at quality cuisine and a comfortable atmosphere. When the opening day came, Anna had greater emotions than before the cafe launch. Guests started gathering toward evening. Among them were journalists, businessmen, simply connoisseurs of good cuisine. Mikhail brought his acquaintances. Even Andrei Viktorovich came, although he grumbled that he couldn't stand official events. Anna almost didn't go out into the hall. She stood in the kitchen and watched the work of the cooks, listened to the rhythm of service, caught the aromas of the food, eavesdropped on the waiters' reviews. And then Svetlana suddenly grabbed her hand and pulled her out into the hall. "Look," she said, pointing with her hand. Anna looked. People sat at tables, talked, laughed, tasted the food. And in all this there was something incredibly real. She felt warmth spreading inside. "We did it," she whispered. "Yes, we did it." That night, they closed the restaurant well after midnight. "Well, what do you say, boss?" asked Svetlana tiredly, sitting on a bar stool. Anna smiled. "And now, let's get to work." The restaurant became successful. People came, reserved tables in advance, journalists wrote praising articles, and Anna's team worked smoothly, like a clock. Anna was no longer that naive girl who once believed that happiness meant marrying a rich man. Now she knew, happiness is when you build your life yourself. Anna didn't notice them immediately. That evening the restaurant was full, tables occupied, waiters bustled among guests, the kitchen worked at the usual rhythm. She stood at the administrator's desk, checking reservations for tomorrow, when she heard a familiar voice. "Something is too noisy here with you. Isn't it too high-class a place for such agitation?" Anna raised her head. In front of her stood Vadim and Xenia. He had almost not changed. The same sure gaze, expensive suit, ideal hairstyle. But Xenia looked different, ostentatiously rich, but in her manner of behaving there was something nervous, as if she strove desperately to correspond with what she no longer had. Anna tensed internally, but controlled herself quickly. "Good evening," she said quietly. "How can I help you?" Vadim looked at her with narrowed eyes, as if he didn't believe his eyes. "Anna?" "Yes." She looked at him calmly. Xenia inspected the restaurant disdainfully, tapped her long nails on the menu. "Well, look at that. What a meeting. Do you work here?" Anna smiled. "In a way." "So you are a waitress?" Vadim smirked. "Oh, my dear, I told you that you would have to come down to earth." Xenia giggled too. "Well, someone has to survive somehow, after running away foolishly." Anna was silent. It was strange for her to listen to them. Once she would have felt pain, humiliation, anger. But now they were simply strangers who meant nothing. "Anna Sergeyevna," a waiter approached, interrupting the conversation politely. "A supplier came to see you. He wants to discuss the new positions in the menu." Vadim fell silent abruptly. Xenia tensed up too. "Anna Sergeyevna?" The waiter nodded with a slight smile. "Yes, she is the owner of the restaurant." Anna met Vadim's gaze. Something new passed in his eyes. First disbelief, then shock, then a strange mixture of envy and anger. "You are the owner?" "Yes," Anna answered quietly. Xenia arranged her dress nervously. "Well, it is seen that you didn't take money from him for nothing, to arrange yourself better afterward," she threw venomously. "Money?" Anna raised her eyebrows slightly. "You refer to that loan you wanted to make in my name?" Xenia froze, and Vadim clenched his jaw. "It is amazing how quickly you forgot how things stood in reality," Anna continued. "But you know, I am indifferent. You have your life, I have mine." Vadim looked at her for a long time. It was as if he couldn't believe that this woman in front of him was the same Anna who once looked up at him, believing naively in love. "Let's go," he muttered, taking Xenia by the hand. She wanted to say something, but Vadim was already turning toward the exit. Anna led them quietly with her gaze, then returned to her affairs. The past remained definitively behind. Anna went out onto the restaurant terrace, where there were no guests anymore. The evening city sparkled with lights. A light wind cooled her skin pleasantly after a long day of work. She took a deep breath and allowed herself to relax for 1 minute. The meeting with Vadim and Xenia didn't leave any wound in her soul. No anger, no resentment, no desire to prove anything. Only a slight fatigue and the realization that that stage of her life is closed definitively. Is everything okay? Svetlana's voice was heard. Anna nodded without turning. Yes, I'm just thinking about them, about the fact how everything changed. Svetlana sighed and sat next to her, putting 2 cups of tea on the table. I don't want to upset you, but that guy seems like he still didn't understand what happened. In what sense? Vadim, when he was leaving, he looked at you as if he had just lost something important. Anna smiled. He didn't lose anything, because he never valued anything. Possibly.
But now he knows that you became the person he didn't deserve. Anna looked toward the street, where rare passers-by rushed to their affairs. It doesn't matter anymore what he thinks. I live my own life. Svetlana nodded and smiled. Now that I understand, the final victory. Anna took the cup. Truth be told, yes. Now I have everything I dreamed of. Svetlana snorted. Everything? No way, friend. You have only just begun. Anna laughed. She knew ahead lay even more work, new projects, new dreams. But now she was sure she would never allow anyone to control her destiny again. The past remained where it belongs. Now life belonged only to her. Thank you for listening to the story. Excuse the mistakes. Write in the comments what you think.
If you liked it, subscribe to the channel.